Hey, what's going on, folks? So, Chapter 95 is officially in the books, and if you thought that the wrap-up of the previous arc was intense, well, this week we finally get some more concrete evidence as to when Vigilantes is taking place. And it's becoming more and more likely that the story is only mere months behind My Hero Academia. So I'm not going to go ahead and start spoiling in the intro, so if you're not caught up, it's free to be read on Viz right now. So make sure you subscribe and turn those notifications on, that way you never miss a premiere here on the channel. You don't want to miss out on that, we all get together and rant about the chapter. So enough of that, let's open up the bar. Welcome to the bar, everyone. So today, like I said, we're going to be going over Chapter 95, and honestly, some would say that it kinda looks like Vigilantes is getting ready to wrap up. With the type of information that is dropped in this particular chapter, it's really kind of wrapping up towards a climax of epic proportions. You know, when I first started reading Vigilantes, I was kind of hoping for this type of climactic ending that somehow would, gracefully merge it into My Hero Academia. And with the end of this chapter, it's kinda looking more and more likely that the possibility of that happening within the next couple of months is possible. But a lot can happen in 5 chapters, especially in Vigilantes time. But with that being said, let me finish pouring this beer and let's head over to the wall and break down 95. Alright, Chapter 95, let's get to it. So, it starts off with Eraserhead and Present Mike sitting in the offices at UA. Present Mike is antagonizing Eraserhead because he's actually throwing himself into his work pretty hard. And we could see that from the last time we saw him, Eraserhead is becoming exceedingly more passionate about being a teacher at UA. And we see that the reason why he's even there late at night is because he's been subbing in for midnight. But that's when we get this scene where Present Mike does the, "Oh, look what we got here," and steals a portable radio transmitter out of Eraserhead's ear. It turns out that despite being a teacher and not being involved whatsoever, he's still really invested in the situation unfolding in Naruhata. He has a pretty sincere connection to the people of Naruhata. They embraced him because at the time, Eraserhead wasn't the hero Naruhata definitely needed, but he was the one that they deserved. Yeah, I just quoted The Dark Knight, sue me. Then the scene suddenly ends with a text message. It's from Detective Tsukauchi. From there, the scene shifts to where Midnight actually was. Yeah, Midnight's still at the hospital with Popstep. We get some good news that Pop is trending in the right direction, but now the situation has become exceedingly more dire, being that the police station was recently attacked. In the scene, she's talking to Soga about all of the information that he's been withholding from the police and the heroes, and Soga lets her know that as soon as this all blows over, the Vigilantes will come forth with all of the information that they have. But the caveat is, they're only gonna give themselves up when they know that they can guarantee Popstep's safety. And as that phone call ends, we finally move back to Koichi. Turns out he's been camped up on top of that roof for a pretty long time and he really needs a new change of underwear. And that's when Soga kinda makes the executive decision to have Wrapped head back to Koichi's penthouse, pick up some clothes and supplies, and then just head on back. Now, this scene with Wrapped was actually pretty badass, because besides the fact that they utilize it as a transition to go back to Koichi, it does something pretty imperative, because it looks like somebody has broken into Koichi's penthouse, very carefully though, not in your typical number 6 destroy everything kind of way. And it wasn't like a huge break-in to find information and steal a bunch of things, and to be quite honest, it kinda looks like the person broke in and didn't find what they wanted. Now the big giveaway to me though is that the panel that they used to mirror and go back to Koichi, it's where Knuckle Duster's bandana and dusters used to be hanging. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but let's do some math and say that it's possible that our boy is back in action. Then the chapter takes the chance just to bring us back down to earth and talk a little bit more about why Koichi is staking his freedom for Popstep. And if there's one thing that we learned, if you give Koichi a chance to be really deep and corny, he could do it. But I gotta say, this particular chapter, besides the plot and the story progressing, Betancourt's illustration for this particular chapter was beautiful. The cover page alone gave me chills, but wow, Koichi just sitting there and staring up at the moon? I get nerd chills. And these are the little moments within Vigilantes that make this series so worth reading. And even though this chapter was essentially ushering in a brand new arc, it was really acting as the calm before the storm. And one thing I do have to point out is that there's just a heavy amount of foreshadowing that something might happen to Koichi. In this chapter, he kept on talking about how no matter what, he's gonna make sure that Popstep is okay. And it kinda scares me because this scene moves towards the end of the chapter with a completely irate Detective Tsukauchi. Turns out, the little sister of Tsukauchi, Makoto Tsukauchi, is still in the States with Captain Celebrity and his wife, and she's trying to do her best despite being so far away. There's definitely a bigger plan at hand with everybody kind of working towards the same goal, and she definitely has a part to play in it. But her poking around in this situation has really started to grind Naomasa Tsukauchi the really wrong way. I mean, we could see by the way that he's drawn in this chapter, he's tired emotionally, and he's sick of the Vigilantes just constantly being right. I mean, let's think back right now. When he had Soga in custody, Soga looked him straight in the face and told him that if he doesn't want the Vigilantes to do his job for him, do a better job. I mean, really, it's as simple as that, but those words keep on echoing inside of Tsukauchi's head, and he starts thinking about everything. Tanuma getting hurt, Tanuma not waking up from his injuries, and then it culminates in Sanza off-screen ushering in and scaring the shit out of Tsukauchi. You know, I don't want to assume that Tsukauchi is like new to being a detective, but if I had to guess anything, I would say that he's pretty new to having to do these types of investigations. And if I had to guess, he's probably not really comfortable with being personally attacked this much. First it was his sister, and now it's Tanuma. This case is slowly becoming more personal for him, and there might be a time where people kind of point out that he's a little too emotionally involved. Though the reason why Sanza enters the room is for the moment that us Koichi stans have been dreading. It's finally official. The arrest warrant has been filed and signed by a judge for the immediate apprehension of the Naruhata vigilante, Koichi the Crawler Himawari. And look, this inner monologue right here before the chapter ends, it slaps. They really did a proper job at depicting the fact that Tsukauchi is at the end of his rope. Time after time, the Vigilantes have just proven that the cops of Naruhata and the cops of Japan just can't do their job properly. People are dying left and right. What kind of bothers me the most is the fact that Tsukauchi wants to apprehend the Crawler before he finds out who blew up the police department. I mean, Tsukauchi pretty much says that Detective Tanuma isn't gonna wake up, so unless you're accusing Koichi of murder, what's the point? But if that is the case, and the explosion along with Tanuma's death gets pinned onto Koichi, the murder of a police officer would all but guarantee Koichi's spot in Tartarus. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and just assume that he's free because of the jailbreak, because arresting Koichi does give number 6 the opportunity to disguise himself as a cop and kill Koichi and Popstep. But I do have a feeling that that warrant is going to act as leverage towards the apprehension of Koichi. Now, the other clues that were touched upon is the fact that Eraserhead and Knuckle Duster are definitely coming back into the fold. So if Koichi is apprehended, he might get broken out, or maybe the apprehension of Koichi is just meant to draw out number 6. And maybe this is just one big plan to eventually have Tsukauchi act more like a vigilante and move outside the confines of the law because he doesn't know who can be trusted in this situation. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, the police department was just attacked by somebody who just managed to sneak in. So, who do you trust at this point? Either way, I've never been more excited for a Vigilantes chapter than chapter 96. It's time to go back into speculation mode. Because if you throw Koichi into Tartarus, it's the safer way to end the story. And to have him enter My Hero Academia through All for One's jailbreak is just kind of a cop-out in my opinion. But there's so many people who will come to the defense of Koichi. In this chapter alone, we see that we got 2 pro heroes of Japan and 1 in America that's all willing to come to his aid. But if I had to guess, I'm leaning more towards Koichi being arrested and then number 6 making his move. This dude's bitter and he wants Koichi and Popstep dead. Also, another question for me is, what year of teaching is this for Eraserhead? Present Mike did make the joke that he's really thrown himself into work. So the assumptions that I have are either A, this is him as a casual sub before he teaches the class that he quote-unquote expels, or B, this is the first year of him with Deku and the rest of Class 1A. I mean, he makes the joke that Vigilantes aren't his students, but really, they are. There's tons of questions to be asked in the coming week, and you bet I'm gonna be making one hell of an assumption video sometime next week. I actually have another video ready to go that I'll be dropping on Sunday about the prospect of Koichi coming to the aid of Ida during another fight with Stain. And I said once before that the chemistry is there for the result, and this chapter, chapter 95, if anything it let us know that Vigilantes is probably coming to an end in a couple of months. Whether it'll end on chapter 100 is to be said, but remember, 5 chapters in Vigilantes time is like 12 chapters of My Hero Academia. So if I had to guess, Vigilantes probably has like 3 to 4 months left. And that math would actually have it end around this summer, possibly close to its 5th anniversary. Especially if they do, more of those 3-week breaks in between chapters. But yeah, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to share it with your friends and throw up a like. Also, let me know down below if you think Tsukauchi has an ulterior motive for arresting Koichi and if he might use his quirk. And also, do you think Knuckle Duster and maybe even Eraserhead are gonna run interference to help the Vigilantes and Koichi escape the police? Let's start the discussion down below, but for now, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.